have never done it on my laptop, but wow, this actually looks really nice, so that's cool. Oop. I love how I get notifications like that. Hello guys, I'm using my computer camera, which is super cool. I thought I'd do this because I'm not a big fan of using my phone, because I like to do other things on my phone. Like if I want to look up information on FASD, I can just quickly do that. But this is actually really not bad on this. Wow. The quality is like really not bad. That's good to know. I hope you can hear me. I don't know if you can. Hold on. Let me see if I can find myself. And then we can see. Hello. Hello. Okay, you can hear me fine. Hello. Okay, you can hear me fine. Okay, it's just gonna repeat that, so I'm gonna exit that. Okay, it's gonna repeat that on my phone, so I don't want that on. But yeah, how is everyone? Hello, whoever's watching, I'm not sure who, but yeah, I thought we could get on another live stream and talk about FASD. And of course, one of my dogs wants to come in. Wait. Are you done being silly? Come on. In we go. Come on. In we go. And of course, Bindi, you're going to choose the most up. And you're going to be quiet, I hope. Wait. And you're going to be nice and quiet, I hope. But yeah, I thought I would come on and chat. Let me see if I can put... See if I can use anything to sort of get people to come. So let's see if people show up. Oh, what a good... My dog just scratched, so of course I'm going to tell her she's a good girl for scratching. Yes. I'll go soon. Does anyone want... Maybe we should talk about, like, some negative comments that I get on some of my, videos. Whoa. Just trying to figure out what's good. Let's see some of the crazy stuff that some of the crazy comments that I can get on FASD. Hold on. Trying to see what I like better. Just don't... Yeah, that's fine. Whatever. Let's see. Let's start with TikTok first, because TikTok's always like comments. I haven't gotten a lot of comments on TikTok recently. Oh god, what are the comments that I have favorited? Ugh. Let's see. Comments. Where are the comments? Let's see. I'm just reading some of the comments. Phoebe, come here. Come back up. Oh, big stretches. I know, you're so hot. Oh, now you want out. You're annoying. You know that, right? Go. I did wheelchair basketball a week ago, and that video has been doing really well. So thanks, guys, for that one. I get a lot of comments and negative comments about fetal alcohol syndrome and the facial features that come with it. It's so annoying. It's very rude too, the comments that we can get because of the facial features. Which, by the way, facial features, only 10% of people with FASD actually have. If anyone wants to know that, that is a true fact. Let's see. I didn't really see a lot of comments that I liked. Whoop. I think Instagram. I've been doing better on Insta. So, of course, if I do better on Instagram, I'm going to get more negative comments on there. Let's see. I have to find them because Instagram's weird with their comments. I can't favorite them. Someone did an interesting comment. Oh, yeah. So there was a study done in the 40s, which I think about specific facial features in quote-unquote autism, and someone was talking about them on TikTok a couple of months ago, and I realized that a lot of those facial features happen to also be FASD facial features. So I was like, huh, that's interesting. And so I was like, this doesn't make a lot of sense because in the 40s, FASD wasn't even a diagnosable condition. It wasn't until 1973 when FASD was coined. Fetal alcohol syndrome was coined. Oh, fuck's sake, I keep forgetting to turn on my... I forget to turn on my computer battery. I turn it off at night. So, of course, it's like, you have no battery. And I'm like, yes, I do. Anyway, so there was some study done in the 40s that put facial features with autism, and then I was looking it up and I was like, hold on, a lot of these facial features match FAS facial features. And I was like, what if this doctor didn't realize he was looking at a bunch of kids with FAS, fetal alcohol syndrome, and I called this out and I was like, hey, this might not actually be as accurate as you think. And of course, someone got upset with me and they're like, you're spreading misinformation. And I was like, hold on. I pointed out that FASD wasn't diagnosable until the 70s. The study was done in the 40s. And how do we know that this study is even done adequately? So I got a comment. Hold on, let me see. I have to find it. I hate TikTok's questions. Here we go. So the person says that's the point. There is no actual solid research or proof for any of this, and at this point in time. Yes, it totally could be that autism doesn't actually have any specific facial features and that people in the past actually had FASD. They did have FASD. Had FASD that went undiagnosed, but that could also be wrong, and maybe autism does have a set of specific facial features we just don't know. Original poster stated that these facial features are specifically FASD. A lot of them are specifically FASD because FASD, these facial features happen before someone even realizes they're pregnant. And these facial features are like skeletal facial features. And also, some of the facial features are the reason because of brain structure and brain not developing and not growing. That's one of the reasons why, like, people with FASD have look like they have really small sort of eye openings. And it's because our eyes actually don't push out of our sockets because our brain doesn't fully, like, develop. And I've never heard in autism the brain not properly forming. That's specifically an FASD thing that happens because the brain gets damaged and the brain doesn't develop properly. When she should have, and then they tell me how I should have controlled my language, when she should have said that she believes these facial features could be specific to FASD. We know that they're specific to FASD. It's not could be, it is. At this point in time, the science says that the facial features being discussed are also autistic facial features. Well, the study was done in the 40s. That's the problem. And FASD wasn't being talked about in the 40s. So this is a biased study. None of us are scientists or professionals. We can throw around ideas and hypothesis conversation, raise awareness, advocacy for more research, but saying things like this as if it's fact. The FASD facial features are fact, though. This is how fetal alcohol syndrome was a thing. Fetal alcohol syndrome was a proper diagnosis in 1973. That became a diagnosis. But saying things like as if it's fact when it's is just spreading misinformation. It's not spreading misinformation because we know about the FASD facial features. This is just known fact. There's no misinformation. Everyone is entitled to their opinion on the matter, but until we have actual answers, that's all it is, an opinion. The FASD facial features are not an opinion, though. That's the thing. We know that the FASD facial features exist, and we know why they exist. So that was one of them I had to get a couple of days ago about fighting over facial features. And my brain is like, hold on, this doesn't make sense that autism and FASD both have very, 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 very similar facial features. And I'm clocking this and going like, hold on, something's not right here. Sorry. And also, to look at someone's face and diagnose them with something is also problematic. Nowadays, we see that as a big problem. Oh, there was another one where someone said that I said like autism, FASD is more common than autism, and someone was like, no, it's not. It's like, yes, it is. Yes, it is. We also know that FASD is more common than autism. Between 2% to 5% of the population in the United States have FASD. 1 in 20 school-age children could have some form of FASD. 1 in 25 Canadians have FASD. In Ireland, 1 in 10 children have FASD. Hold on, I know UK is crazy too. Hold on. I'm looking it up because I know it's a staggering. National Stanford figures equate to some 1.2 to 2.4 million in the UK may have had and might have FASD. Yeah, I hate when it does that. Hold on. I thought it was like crazy high. It was like, so in the UK, about 3.6% may have FASD just in the UK. But I thought it was way higher than that. So in the UK, it's 3.6. Ah, here it is. Okay, yes, accept. Up to 70% of UK children could have symptoms consistent with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. Could be up to 17%. That's crazy. Ireland. I know Ireland is also. The prevalence in Ireland is estimated to be 2.8 to 7.4% of the population. Hold on. Small text. The prevalence of FASD in Ireland is estimated at 2.8 to 7.4% of the population. That's crazy. Let's see Australia. Australia. Yes, I have to use my phone. Australia, FASD. Because the person was like, that's only in the US. What about globally? And here's all FASD. Australia, FASD. And it all says in every single country and slash continent that FASD is the most common, is the leading known cause of developmental disability in the Western world. And if you look at any place in the world, it's going to say that. Except in the places where alcohol does not drink a lot, then of course their numbers are going to be lower. But if that part of the world or that has a big drinking culture, then FASD is going to be very big. I want to see a percent. New studies estimate 3.6% prevalence rate of FASD in Australia. So they're all measuring it around the same. Equivalent to 1 child per classroom may have fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, a preventable and often undiagnosed disability resulting from prenatal alcohol exposure. FASD is the leading cause of non-genetic disability in Australia. Guess what I'm clicking? Yep. That seems to be a theme, that at least 1 child per every school classroom has FASD. And that's why it also irks me. I literally saw a person on the internet who was ranting about their self-diagnosis of like autism and ADHD, and they're like, I want to go into kindergarten schools and diagnose every single kid with autism that I think has autism. And I'm sitting there like, okay, have you ever connected the fact that some of those kids could also have FASD? But okay, just go into a classroom and start diagnosing all those kids with autism, even though some of those kids don't have autism. Because FASD, ADHD, and autism all have interfacinated symptoms with each other. That's why FASD tends to get misdiagnosed as autism and ADHD. FASD, let's talk about like FASD and misdiagnosis. Yes. Fetal alcohol spectrum disorder is often misdiagnosed, with studies showing that a significant number of individuals with FASD are either misdiagnosed or undiagnosed. This can lead to inappropriate intervention and therapies that don't address the underlying issue caused by prenatal alcohol exposure. FASD symptoms can mimic those of other conditions such as ADHD, autism, and intellectual disability. This can lead to misdiagnosis with these conditions instead of FASD. For example, a child with short attention span might be diagnosed with ADHD instead of FASD, leading to treatment that does not address the underlying brain damage caused by alcohol. Similar individuals with FASD may be misdiagnosed with autism or intellectual disability due to overlapping symptoms. Fetal alcohol syndrome, sometimes misdiagnosed and underreported due to stigma around drinking. Yep. So there was a study done for CAN FASD. The study identified inadequate FASD diagnostic capacity in all participating jurisdictions based on findings and the current population size. It's estimated that 98% of individuals with FASD are undiagnosed or misdiagnosed in Canada. Wait times for FASD diagnosis range from 1 month to 4.5 years across participating jurisdictions. The annual FASD diagnostic capacity in the select provinces and territories require at least 67-fold increase per year, and some of these in multiple clinic across several provinces and one territory jurisdiction of Canada was Alberta, British Columbia, Manitoba, Ontario, and Northwest Territories. The data was collected directly from clinics capable of providing diagnosis of FASD, examined annually capacity for assessment and diagnosis of FASD per year from 2015 to 2019. In total, 58 FASD diagnostic clinics were identified and 33 clinics participated in this survey. The study identified inadequate FASD diagnostic capacity in the participating jurisdictions. And that's how they found out that 98% of individuals with FASD are undiagnosed or misdiagnosed in Canada. Awesome. That is so, so awesome. We're also worried that FASD might have gone up a little bit in the COVID years because a lot of people turned to alcohol to deal with the COVID pandemic and being stuck at home and not having a lot to do. So a lot of people drank and then might have also done some adult things. I don't know if I can say said adult things on the internet. Sort of just to pass the time. And then a lot of kids ended up getting born in the pandemic era. And so I find it interesting that a lot of teachers now are like the 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds that were sort of born in the pandemic, and now they're like 5 or 6, have all these issues, and they're like, I don't know what happened. A lot of people think it's the pandemic and COVID and lack of social skills, which could totally be a thing, but also my mind is spinning and like I wonder how many kids are affected by the fact that their parents drank at home with not a lot to do in the pandemic and then ended up with kids with FASD and don't realize they have kids with FASD, and mixed with the lack of socialization in the pandemic, and a lot of kids with FASD have also a lot of issues with social skills. I wonder if that's why we have a lot of kids going into kindergarten in the last like 2 years. Yeah, with issues. With a lot of issues. And my brain's like, FASD? And I know for a fact a lot of teachers don't get a lot of education on disability in general in school, and then they definitely don't get a lot of education when it comes to FASD. It's just not happening. So yes, if you have kids that are like seem to be not performing the way you want your kids to perform, FASD might be the diagnosis that's happening. Not every single kid, I recognize that, but could be a large percent. Could be a very large percent. That's why we need proper FASD diagnostic tools in school specifically so that kids can get the right diagnosis. I'm just texting a friend. What else? So those are some of the things. What are other comments that I get on my TikToks? Oh, I get a lot of comments on whenever my videos do well. Whenever my videos do well on the internet, a lot of people will be like, and I talk about FASD, the comments will be like, guess whose mom drank alcohol while pregnant too? And then it's like, no shit, Sherlock. I have FASD. Like, they try to be like, you have FASD, ha ha ha. I'm like, that's why I'm making videos. Of course I have FASD. You think you're like 29 years too late, dude. 28, maybe. 28 years too late. My neurologist diagnosed me when I was 2. So, you're 28 years too late. I get those a lot. Those are very annoying. Or I'll get really annoying comments of, "What's wrong with your face?" Or, "Oh my god, she's giving uncanny valley vibes." You're giving rude vibes, but okay. Trying to find videos. Yes. One of my videos on TikTok, not TikTok, I keep saying TikTok, Instagram, 1.3 million. And it's an old video that I've done it's been on TikTok for like 3 years, and I just uploaded it like a month ago onto Instagram, and people didn't like it. So someone puts, "What do you think about babies that don't actually get it even though their moms drank a bit? Are some babies just more resilient that the alcohol doesn't cause FASD? It's strange how I've never seen an episode of people who didn't know they were pregnant and they drank some here and there while they're pregnant, and luckily their baby didn't show any signs of FASD. What do you think?" So I answered that question and I said, there's 428 co-occurring conditions linked to FASD. I don't think a lot of children truly get off scot-free without some medical issue. There's 428 co-occurring conditions linked to FASD, and in our society, we have a very biased opinion on what we think FASD should look like and behave like. And so if those kids don't match what people think they should look like and act like, then they're not going to get that diagnosis. Or the parents might think their child is quote unquote fine because that's how they see their child acting. They don't have any sort of reference until the kid goes into school, and then the parents realize, oh, this isn't normal. This isn't what it's supposed to be. Something's up. Kids with FASD sometimes don't start showing issues until they start going to school. So those learning difficulties might start showing up. The socialization issues might not show up until they start going to school, or the parents might not recognize the kids are having issues with peer-to-peer interaction until like the school psychologist comes in, or their main teacher is like, hey, we've noticed some issues in this area. So that's what I have to say to that comment. Because a little context, I made a video about, it was a little skit thing about a conversation I had had with someone in my comment section. And the quote unquote parent said, my kid has ADHD. So I'm not going to go back to the doctor and get an FASD diagnosis. It's fine. They just have ADHD. And so in my sort of fake response video, I said like, hey, did you know FASD can have overlapping symptoms of ADHD, like hyperactivity? And people did not like that. People misinterpreted what I said. And a lot of people were like, did you know hyperactivity is not just one symptom of ADHD? And like, I know, I'm well aware that ADHD has a lot of symptoms, and hyperactivity also is not just FASD. There are 100 other symptoms that FASD. Why is this not? Hold on. I wonder if this just turned off. there. We're having like a little bit of a storm, so I wonder if my power strip thing got tripped. All right, we're back. But yes, people were mad that I had said, did you know hyperactivity is also an FASD thing? So one of these comments was, yeah, I have ADHD and it's not because my mom drank. So, hold on. It was a long thread. I said, if you know for a fact your parent didn't drink while pregnant, then this video doesn't apply to you. Because a lot of people in that video were like, my mom didn't drink and I don't have FASD, I have ADHD. And I was like, okay, then this video wasn't for you. Obviously, if your parent didn't drink, then FASD does not apply to you. But a lot of people decide otherwise. So that was a comment that I had gotten. I got a lot of comments like that being like, excuse me, actually. And I was like, you didn't, no, not actually. You just decided not to read to interpret my video. Yeah, this person says ADHD and FASD are two different diagnoses. A lot of people whose moms didn't drink have ADHD, and ADHD is mostly hereditary. And I said, you missed the point of the video. Your video makes it seem like ADHD is caused by drinking when a lot of times it's other factors. Just wanted to clear that up. And actually, we know that people with FASD are 10 times more likely to have ADHD than the general public. There is a correlation between drinking alcohol and ADHD-like symptoms. So much so that one study I looked up said there might be a specific FASD/ADHD phenotype. Or a subtype, not a phenotype, a subtype. Yeah, hold on, I'm going to look up that study. FASD, ADHD, subtype. I have to find that. Okay. Fetal alcohol spectrum disorder are the physical and neurodevelopmental outcomes of fetal alcohol exposure. The behavior phenotypes of children with FASD include difficulty with executive functioning, memory, planning, processing speeds, and attention. Although attention deficit hyperactive disorder (ADHD) is diagnosed up to 94% of individuals with heavy prenatal alcohol exposure, the exact relationship between FASD and ADHD is unclear. There is some evidence that ADHD and FASD may be a specific clinical subtype and thus may require a different treatment approach. Although traditional behavior observation scales may not distinguish between the two groups, there is evidence that children with FASD have a different profile on the four-facting models of attention than children with ADHD who do not have FASD. There is a good scientific evidence on intervention for individuals with ADHD and FASD. There's a weak evidence that children with FASD and ADHD may have a better response to, I'm going to show you what it, I don't know if you can see that. It's a specific medication. May have a better response to DEXAMPE. I'm reading that again. DEXAMPHETAMINE. Then methylphenidate. There is a strong need for larger, higher quantity studies to examine the relationship between ADHD and FASD, because management in attention and hyperactive may improve learning and the common secondary disabilities associated with FASD. So hyperactivity, ADHD is diagnosed in up to 94% of people with FASD. 94%, which is crazy. Yes. So I can feel my dog wanting to go out. Let's see. What other comments have I gotten? Yeah, these comments help me talk to you guys and make up conversation. Yes, here's a comment. Your parent drank too, by the way, by the looks of it. Thanks. And someone put, oh great, that's nice, because I have ADHD and my mom drank while pregnant with me. And I put, sorry. Someone asked this, I get this question a lot, how can you diagnose FASD? It's done by a neurologist, sometimes a neurologist or a psychologist who is trained on FASD. It would be diagnosed just the same as any other developmental disability. The only difference is if you don't have the facial features, then sometimes the birth parent has to say that they did indeed drink alcohol while pregnant. If the parent doesn't say that, then FASD might not get diagnosed. So there either has to be the facial features, and there has to be specific facial features. I think there has to be 3 facial features plus all the other diagnostic criteria with FASD to make a diagnosis of FASD when the parent is not available. Let's say if the parent passed away, or adoption or foster care, and the parent's unavailable, and if the person has the facial features plus other things, then the diagnosis can be made. But if the child does not have facial features, then they highly, highly, highly want the birth parent to say, yes, I did drink alcohol while pregnant. But if the parent denies, or the parent is not able to say said thing, sometimes the diagnosis will not be made, and that's very frustrating. Hence why there's a lot of misdiagnosis out there. Oh, here's one. Yes, it's important, but we cannot apply ADHD caused by drinking when pregnant. I understand it can be, but it's not always is. What I mean, same with autism. A lot of times it's just genetic. I fear this is going to give the anti-autism and anti-ADHD crowd something else to latch onto. And I said, you missed the point. FASD has similar traits with autism and ADHD, like hyperactivities, issue with attention, executive dysfunction, social skill issues, sensory processing, and much more, and often gets misdiagnosed as autism and ADHD. Anti-autism and anti-ADHD parents haven't talked about FASD at this point, and they won't start now. People with FASD are 10 times more likely to have ADHD than the general public. We can't ignore this anymore. And this person says, yeah, but we also can't just be like ADHD and ADHD is FASD, especially when people are fully aware they didn't consume alcohol. It's just going to make people think we did and are lying. And I said, I never said it was, but don't you think all disabilities deserve to be recognized? Shed light on FASD leading known causes and developmental disability in the Western world. It's more common than autism. A lot of people who have self-diagnosed with autism or ADHD probably don't even know they think they have possible FASD. How do you know it's more common than autism or ADHD when most folks, according to you, aren't even aware of it, hence not diagnosed? Bit contradictory. And I said, studies? Just like all other medical conditions? And when she's like, how? When people don't know and are undiagnosed. And so I made a video being like, we've done studies on this. We know it's more common than autism. And then another person jumped in and said, well, FASD mostly prevents with certain facial features, and ADHD and autism don't. Which I find interesting because I had talked about earlier, I'd been arguing with someone who claims that people with autism have facial features. So what is it? They do or they don't? And so I said, no, only 10% of people with FASD have the facial features. And person's like, we don't need more judgment when we know that's not in the case. People look for anything to blame kids. And I said, how do you think people with FASD feel when we already have the stigma? And they put, I wouldn't know. But I'm not talking about it. People... So basically the person was like, don't even talk about FASD. I don't want it in my disability space. Go away. Which I find is also very common with FASD, that when I say, hey, if we're going to talk about these neurodivergent conditions, can we talk about FASD? And a lot of people in the autism, ADHD crowd are like, no, we don't want you in this space because you're going to bring stigma to us because yours is preventable and ours is not. And I'm like, okay, that's fair. But also... people with FASD can also have ADHD and autism together. They can have 3 conditions going at once. Why is it only right to have advocacy for 2 out of the 3 conditions? Why do ADHD and autism get support and FASD does not? Can't all 3 conditions get support and research and all that together? Oh, also, in that video, I made the parent of the skit that I did had said, FASD is overdiagnosed, and a lot of people like misinterpreted that as like sarcasm. FASD is underdiagnosed, so I had to correct a lot of people. I was like, actually, it's undiagnosed. That was just a false information that I had made in the skit, and I just didn't clarify. And there's a lot of people, like this commenter said, oh my god, I didn't know I was pregnant until... I didn't know I was pregnant for 5 months and I drank. My baby seems normal. He is too. So that's also what happens with FASD. A lot of people don't realize they're pregnant until much, much, much later on. And so FASD can happen totally by accident, which happens more than you think. It's not just, oh, someone had an addiction and couldn't stop drinking. Sometimes FASD happens before you even realize you're pregnant. Yeah, someone said, why do you have to convey this in the most annoying way possible? It was a soundbite I had done, and yes, the soundbite was really annoying. It sounded like human barking dogs, but it got me 1.3 million views, so it worked. And it got me 25.9K, 25,000 people liked it. So that was really cool. Let's see what else. What other comments do I get? I could do segments upon segments on this about comments that I get. Oh yes, here's another video. Oh, someone wrote, I don't know a lot about FASD aside from the general knowledge that drinking during pregnancy is a big no-no. But what truly confuses me is this clip is that apparently the wider disability community doesn't want to include them. Huh? Anytime I talk about this, people think I'm just making up stuff, and it's comments that I've gotten. Parents have told me they don't want FASD in the conversation. I've seen numerous videos that said, especially in the neurodivergent space online, people will be like, this is neurodivergent, but all these other cases are not. And then I'll come into the comments and be like, actually, FASD does belong in the neurodivergent community. And they'll be like, no, it's brain damage, or no, it's preventable. So no, it can't be neurodivergent. No, it's not. It doesn't evolve in evolution, making it not neurodivergent. All these really false and Aspie supremacy like comments. And I tend to have to come in and be like, actually, no. None of that makes sense. I've never heard that. Victim complex like shit. If you read her other comment replies, it's just always reaching. Reaching what? What am I reaching for? If you can hear that, it's just my dogs playing. They play with each other. Oh, that's another thing. Someone says, I've been part of the FASD facial recognition study. I grew out of most of my facial features, so I was more than happy to offer up my face for a computer program that hopefully can scan not only adult faces, but also children and even 3D sonogram pictures to help diagnose FASD as early as possible. I was born addicted while breastfeeding on an addiction. She snorted, smoked, drank, and injected everything she could get her hands on. So that's another thing. The facial features you can grow out of. So there was one video I posted. I actually had to take the comments off, which I've never had to do. So I might turn the comments back on. Trying to find another video that hit. Oh, I hate when the video changes audio and then it messes me up. That's so annoying. That happens to a lot of my videos. Oh, also I have to tell someone that you can't interchange FAS and FASD. Then the research gets screwed because FAS is talking about one type of FASD and FASD is talking about the whole sum of FASD. So I have to remind people when you're doing like studies and stuff, you can't just look up FAS because then the studies and statistics will be screwed. Where is that video? I've done so many videos that... Oh, yeah, this is going to have a lot. I get a lot of comments about how, like, oh, I drank wine is fine. It's like, no, wine is not fine. It still has alcohol in it. Yeah, someone puts, oh my Lanta, fear-mongering at its finest here. Sources. A lot of people, when I say, hey, drinking alcohol are pregnant. Oh, they wanted me to put sources on stuff about... People want me to source my videos to claim that drinking alcohol while pregnant is bad. They want me to source that, even though we should know that drinking alcohol while pregnant is bad. It's very easy to source that. Yeah, fear-mongering is another one I get. I'm a fear-monger. For telling people, hey, don't drink alcohol while pregnant is not a good thing. Oh, this is another one. Maybe explain what it is, because I put the acronym FASD, fetal alcohol syndrome, and people get upset for me not putting the full disability name, even though ASD exists, OCD exists, NPD exists, BPD exists, ADHD exists, and a whole bunch of acronyms. But when I put FASD, everyone's like, excuse me, if you want people to know about FASD, you need to put the full name. And I'm like, no, I don't have to. And it actually forces other people to do research, which I want. I want people to do their own research. Don't necessarily want people to fully look at my video and then go, oh, she's my full source. I'm like, please go do some research. And so you can look up the definition of FASD. I'm just looking for other comments. Hold on. Oh, here's one. I mean, there's a difference between regular drinking your entire pregnancy and having half a glass one wine once at the direction of your OBGYN. There's doctors stating that it is still safe to drink alcohol while pregnant, and it's not. Half a glass of wine will not cause FAS. That's just fear-mongering. Most of the pregnancy food restrictions are fear-mongering. Just an example, why do you think Japanese women have eaten during pregnancy for years. Sushi, as long as well sourced, is fine. But sushi and alcohol are two different things. That's the problem. We know that the safest thing to do is not drink alcohol while pregnant. You can even look it up on the CDC website. Oh, here's another one, which drives me nuts. I've done a video on this. I know women in Eastern Europe had one glass a few times a week. A few times a week, Jesus. During pregnancy, sipped slowly. This is what kills me. Sipped slowly. You're still ingesting alcohol while pregnant. Even if you're sipping it slowly, it's still going to the unborn child. No issue. I think it's good to abstain, but people shouldn't fearmonger about a few sips. But your comment didn't talk about a few sips. You said you know a couple of people who drink more than once a week, which is crazy. Also, don't drink once a week. That's also not safe. That's incredibly harmful also. And also, just to let you know, alcohol is alcohol no matter where you drink it. It doesn't become safe when you leave a border of a country. It's the fetal alcohol that's the issue. That's why it's called fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. And they're a nurse. I'm a nurse. I have met people with FAS. Mothers drink consistently throughout the pregnancy. Some were heavy drinkers. I'm not advocating that or drinking at all. I'm simply stating that a few sips or even a glass will not cause FAS. Unless you are 4 kilograms and you don't have the ability to metabolize alcohol. Women used to have diluted drinks in the past before it suddenly became taboo. Because we didn't know it wasn't safe. It didn't become taboo. We realized it wasn't safe. If people don't know when to stop, yeah, it's a problem. No alcohol is best, but I have never met a person whose kids ended up with FASB because of half a glass of wine. So these are some of the comments that I have to deal with. I read that a glass of wine can stop the fetal breath. Also, FASD is more harmful than hard drugs. FASD, not FASD, alcohol is more harmful than hardcore drugs because it's such a small quantity. It's such a like the that it can slip because it's such a small amount. The quantity can slip through the blood-brain barrier to the fetus very easily because it's such a microscopic level that the blood-brain barrier cannot be protected. So all the alcohol goes to the baby. A lot of people think, oh, it's like just this tiny amount, but because alcohol can break down so small, all of it ends up going to the baby. The baby ends up drinking all of it. I'm just looking up more comments. Oi. Oh yeah, this one, I've been called misogynistic because I don't think we should drink alcohol while pregnant. They also say men, if they want to also help conceive a child, also shouldn't consume alcohol because it can affect their sperm count. What else? See, here's the thing. Guys, this is total fear-mongering. Every responsible OBGYN will tell the patient to restrict alcohol, but FASD is not caused by having a couple of glasses of wine. The mother's blood alcohol levels has to be high routinely. Let me remind you that up to only 20th century, even though it's some places, the only safe drinking were alcohol. Children drank small beers and weak wine in Europe for thousands of years. So did every pregnant woman. Chill out. What's funny about that is the baby's blood alcohol levels can be higher than the birth parents because they don't have a proper liver to filter out the alcohol. That's a problem. So it just stays. The baby ends up just like continuously ingesting the alcohol because their body can't filter it out. Actually, on the CDC, not CDC, hold on. The Mayo Clinic has really good FASD. Mayo. Let's see. It explains this really well. Excuse me. When you're pregnant and you drink alcohol goes into your bloodstream. Inside the womb, the placenta provides oxygen and nutrition to developing baby. The alcohol reaches your baby by passing through the placenta. Alcohol causes higher blood alcohol levels in your developing baby than in your body. That's because a baby breaks down and gets rid of alcohol slower than an adult does. Alcohol is toxic to the baby's cells. Exposure to alcohol before birth can harm how the baby develops, causing prenatal brain damage in the developing baby. The more you drink while pregnant, the greater the risk to your unborn baby. But any amount of alcohol puts your baby at risk. Your baby's brain, heart, and blood vessels begin to develop in the early weeks of pregnancy before you may know you're pregnant. During the first 3 months of pregnancy, important stages of development happen with the face and organs such as the heart, bones, brain, and nerves. Drinking alcohol during this time can cause damage to how the body parts develop, and as the baby continues to develop in the womb, it's damaging to drink any time during pregnancy. The more alcohol you drink during pregnancy, the greater the chance the problem in your baby. There is no known safe amount of alcohol to drink during pregnancy, and there is no type of alcohol that is safe. You could put your baby at risk even before you realize you're pregnant. Don't drink alcohol if you're pregnant, you think you might be pregnant, or trying to become pregnant. Behavioral issues after a child is born can result from having fetal alcohol syndrome. These are secondary disabilities that may include ADHD, aggressive, inappropriate social behavior, alcohol and restricted drug misuse, mental health conditions, challenges staying in or completing school, being able to get along with others, challenges with independent living and getting and keeping jobs, sexual behavior that is not appropriate, early death by accidental homicide or suicide. Yeah, some of those are pretty sad. 90% of people with FASD have 90% of people with FASD have some form of mental health condition. What am I looking for? Hold on. Ooh. I'm sorry, I'm looking at a video that I'll have to look up later. So he is in Canada. Cool. I've been really into watching old videos of people going into abandoned homes. So that's something I'm going to have to look up. This house that I'm looking up might actually be in my neighborhood. Ooh, I'll have to check that out. That house looks very familiar. If he's in the area where I live, that would be super cool. That would be super, super cool. Because I will be honest, some of these houses looked very familiar. Well, I'm excited. I'll have to look that up. I've been very, very much into abandoned homes. So I will have to look this up later because that house looks very freakishly familiar. But yes, back on topic. Instagram. Let's see, any other really weird comments? I usually get the weird comments when my videos do well. Hold on. Let's see. What is one of my videos that did really well? Hold on. Yeah, someone put, you say you're trying to raise awareness, but excessively use acronyms and don't say what the condition even is. That's something that I get a lot. I think I said that earlier. Oh, when I made this video and someone said, it's not a competition, literally get a life. Because when I say like, hey, did you know that FASD is more common than autism? People tend to be like, it's not a competition. I'm like, I wasn't making it. I'm just saying, did you know that this disability that no one talks about and is classified medically as a preventable disability is more common than another disability that people think you can prevent, even though you can't. Someone put, there's also misinformation on FASD. People say that they are typical mentally half their age, incapable of normal life, but it's so varied, which is totally true. Some people with FASD can struggle their whole lives and will never reach full independence. And there's some people with FASD who might not even know they have FASD and who has kids, has a master's degree, works in a very professional-like setting. It can vary. I went to the dentist yesterday. I went to the dentist yesterday. What am I talking about? I went to the dentist yesterday, and my dentist's assistant has FASD, and you wouldn't even know she has FASD. Yet again, because FASD varies, and FASD doesn't have a specific look or a specific disability function that you would be like clocking FASD. But my dentist's assistant has FASD, and she drives a car, and she's been doing this job. She's been with my main dentist for like years. I wonder if it's like 10 years now. And she has kids. She obviously has a job. She can drive. She has a husband. Like, you wouldn't know she has FASD. So yes, FASD is a spectrum, and everyone can be affected differently. Oh, I put the acronyms here. I put FASD, CP, and ASD, and a lot of people don't know what CP means. Cerebral palsy. That's the acronym. Alright, not allowed to finish those comments. Ooh. Oh, cool. So it's fun to see like the way different disabilities like act. Sorry. Whoa, what am I saying? Different videos act from different platforms. Oh, this video was saying that FASD didn't exist XYZ, so why do we care about it now? FASD wasn't a thing in the 50s, so why all of a sudden in this century do we care so much? And I made a video stating, well, it's because we now have a diagnosis for FASD. We now know that there is a link between drinking alcohol while pregnant and developmental issues in the child. And a whole bunch of other medical issues. Karen. Someone said, I do agree, but that would mean the whole of France is disabled then. I've not known a single pregnant French woman not to drink. And I put that area of the world has a very high rate of FASD. Someone put, I wouldn't drink while pregnant, but 1 glass of wine a week won't cause FASD. Yet again, that's a high amount to drink while pregnant. And I love how they're like, I wouldn't drink while pregnant, but that one always gets me. That one drives me nuts. And I said, yes, it definitely can. That's 40 chances. Every time you drink, that's ups to the risk. You're putting your baby at risk 40 times. So 40 drinks is enough to cause FASD. Don't drink once a week while pregnant. That's ridiculous. Whoever's watching, I'm just reading all my comments from my Instagram and TikTok of comments that I've had to battle throughout the years. So I'm just finding them. Oh, I love this. Someone put, they won't do anything to prevent it. They do everything to ignore it. Yep, that's what it feels like sometimes when you have FASD. Everyone does everything to ignore the fact that FASD is very much in our society. I'm trying to look. There has been recent research that has linked fathers' consumption of alcohol prior to conception to cause FASD too. This one's kind of newer. I don't talk about this a lot because the research is so new, but there could be a link between male people drinking and FASD links. So even men should not drink while wanting to conceive. Please don't do that. That's not a good idea. Both parties should leave alcohol alone. This is an everyone issue, not just one person. Someone said, what is FASD? It may be repetitive, but you need to restate the full name every single video. There's always somebody seeing you for the first time. And I said, literally, in my hashtags, there are 100 videos to help you so don't get mad when you don't get mad when you see ADHD. And people are like, it's literally written in the hashtags, not to mention in other amazing clues in the hashtags. Or like Google works. I want people to look up FASD in the search engine to get what they want. That's called research. I want other people to also research. I don't want to be the only person researching. I want people to also be researching. I don't understand these comments. It's okay to have a rare glass of wine in pregnancy. And I said, you know that baby drinks all that alcohol, right? Here we go. It's normal and okay in Europe. It's not. Not even close. Someone says, I once got called out and got called ableist. Like disability is part of life, but that doesn't mean you can risk it. Whoa, I can't. But that doesn't mean you can recklessly risk a child's health. Yeah. Someone has said that it's quote unquote eugenics to tell someone not to drink alcohol while pregnant, which is not true. FASD and our sort of philosophy when it comes to preventing FASD is very different from other disabilities. So just because you know a fancy word doesn't mean it applies to other disabilities. Hello, who's ever watching? And this is I stitched this person that I'm looking through the comments, which I should probably put on my other accounts, but I'm kind of scared too. Because I don't necessarily want this person to get hate. But I did stitch it, and I did get a lot of views, so hold on. Yeah, this got 34.1K views. Their video was basically saying, do I have any mom friends who wants to drink while pregnant? And I like stitched it and went, no, thank you. We will not be doing that. All right, what else? What other videos? This other, I once promoted, I once stitched a woman. Oops, are we back? Sorry. But yeah, I once stitched someone who's a voice actor in the Disney community, in like Disney films, and I called her once out on a video she made. That was interesting. Luckily, that got a lot of views, and her video, she appropriately took that video down, but not before posting a very, very controversial video after the fact. And then I also stitched that video and went, that's also not a good take. Because her take was, my children are fine, so you can drink while pregnant. And I was like, are your kids fine though? Like, you're claiming they're fine, but there are so many conditions that can be linked to drinking alcohol while pregnant. How do you say they're fine? That's what I also find interesting, is that people will be like, oh, it's fine to drink alcohol while pregnant. My kids were fine. Yet these kids might have dental issues, or might need to wear glasses, or might have had a cleft palate when they were born, or might have had a defect. But because of modern medicine, those things aren't super risky anymore, so we can have medical intervention so those kids can have happy, healthy lives. But maybe those medical issues could have been stopped if you didn't drink alcohol while pregnant. Maybe those medical issues didn't have to happen, period. Maybe I have a lot of dental issues, and we know it's linked to my FASD. But because we live in the modern day, and I get a lot of dental issues, and I have a condition called enamel hypoplasia, which means my enamel is super weak, and I don't have a lot of enamel on my teeth, so cavities are a thing. So maybe you drank alcohol while pregnant, you say your kid's fine, yet your kid is constantly battling cavities, and you're could be harassing them and be like, well, you just don't brush your teeth, and oh, well, it's the food that we eat, and we need to cut out this, and this. And it's, no, your child just doesn't have protection on their teeth, which could be linked to the alcohol. But because it's not a super risk to your health, people don't think. Same with braces. My sister had a lot of dental issues regarding braces, and I'm sure that's related to FASD and crowding of the mouth, and maybe not having developed jaw structure. But braces are classified as a lot of kids have to get braces. So we don't see that as a great, huge medical issue. So people don't take that into account. Getting sick a lot as a kid. Lots of kids get sick, but people with FASD can have weak immune systems. So maybe your kid getting sick a lot could be a link to prenatal alcohol exposure in the womb. So there's there's 428 co-occurring conditions linked to prenatal alcohol exposure and FASD. So I don't think it's fair to say my kid's fine. I really don't think so. But I've been talking for an hour and a half, and I think I'm going to call this live stream. Thank you for whoever was watching. This was fun. And this will probably be uploaded on the weekend. So this will be saved, and I will repost it probably Saturday or Sunday or Friday. We will see. But thank you for watching, and I will see you guys again later. Bye!